So I'll be real, after Godzilla Raids Again, I wasn't really looking forward to the rest of the Godzilla franchise, at least the early movies for the most part. I wasn't really just like, didn't really feel it, you know? But after doing some research into like the next few movies, apparently the next one I was going to cover is a remake of the 54 film. And obviously I don't want to redo a review on a film I just watched and just covered not too long ago. And after that, I was actually kind of excited to watch. That was King Kong vs. Godzilla. Apparently that's like right as hell, so it's nowhere able to stream. I had to buy it, and it was gonna be too much of a hassle to deal with at this point in time. I'm done to the next best thing, Mothra vs. Godzilla. And again, like I said, I wasn't really looking forward to it. I was kind of just like in the same headspace as I was at the end of Godzilla Raids Again. I just didn't feel like it was gonna improve. I thought it was gonna be just kind of like bleh. And I am pleasantly surprised. Apparently Raids Again was done by a different director. Ishiro Honda returned for King Kong vs. Godzilla and then came back for Mothra vs. Godzilla. So he's back, and you can feel it pretty. He also did the original Godzilla, I should say, but you can feel it throughout the whole movie. The original Godzilla has a lot of charm, not just because it's a giant monster movie, but also because of the characters within that movie. While it is a generic sci-fi flick nowadays, it was revolutionary for a time because of when it came out. It set the standard for a standard sci-fi flick. The characters were infectious; those you care for them. That's what made Godzilla go. It was not just because Godzilla was there, but the characters were meaningful. They meant something to you, and you feel that come back here. Well, Raids Again failed to make me care about anyone. Mothra vs. Godzilla made me care about everyone equally in some form or fashion. Somehow he manages to balance giant monsters fighting with Godzilla and Mothra to political intrigue, to corporate espionage, to just overall drama perfectly. It's really weird. I was enthralled throughout most of this movie. I think there's like a good 5 to 10 minutes that you can definitely cut from this movie just because it goes on a little bit too long and there's not enough going on. But Mothra vs. Godzilla is awesome. I honestly loved watching this movie. It was so much fun. Original, like the first 20, maybe 30 minutes is a big portion of just drama. Just like there's this egg that washes up on to Japanese coastline, and it starts breeding more. People are fighting over it. It's about human greed. You can feel that seeping through your screen, and you have these journalists. One's a photographer, and they team up to try to protect the egg and try to give it back to people. It's a very interesting aspect to this movie that, I wouldn't think would exist in a Godzilla movie, especially back in 1963 too. I don't know, whatever year this came out. It is so interesting to see that play out, and I'm actually it was a super if I didn't know this was a Godzilla movie, if I didn't know this was a kaiju movie, I'd actually be really interested in a full-length, political thriller or drama about greed and using science versus using something for science or money. What's more beneficial towards humanity, long term, short term, whatever it may be. There's a huge dilemma that is sitting in this movie, and it's in the first 20-30 minutes. I think that's awesome. And then Godzilla shows up in the middle of rubble randomly, and he's just fucking awesome. I think this is the first Godzilla movie back in this era that I've seen that's in color, and he looks awesome. He's great. He's ferocious. The suit definitely got an upgrade at some point in time between Raids Again and this movie. Probably when he faced King Kong. Godzilla is so much more fearsome. He's bigger now. He's massive. Where I generally know Godzilla being this massive creature, he is now around that size now. I could definitely be wrong, but to me, he's bigger than hotels. He's bigger than some of these taller buildings. He's not skyscraper tall, but he's pretty fucking tall, and it's this huge thing where now he feels even more dangerous than he felt in Raids Again, or more dangerous than he felt in the original Godzilla. So now I'm very intrigued. I'm watching Godzilla rampage through the town. But at the same time, we're still playing out human drama and hubris and greed. These themes are present throughout the movie between the journalists going over to is it Infant Island, I think that's what it's called, and begging for Mothra's help eventually. Begging the people to ask Mothra for help. And just their their chiming and like what they tried to do, and their recognition of what is wrong with society, because Mothra's Island, Infant Island, is not a connected civilization like it is with the rest of the world, and I find that so interesting. Back in Japan, you have this like monetary greed plotline coming out between this developer and his financial backer, where he fucks him over, and it's so weird to see this in a Godzilla movie, and it works so well. It is somehow perfectly good works for the movie. I don't get how he does it, and it gets you all involved, and I think I like this more than the original. Is it better than the original? Probably not. It's very campy, which I do appreciate. I think the camp is much appreciated, but it's also a lot of fun, and it's deep still. It maintains that deep like storytelling aspect of things. It's an achievement, honestly, that Honda was able to get all this done in, I think, was 105 minutes. It's able to do it in 89 minutes. It is technically shorter than a theatrical run, and I mean, Mothra's cool as fuck, and I like Mothra. I think Mothra. Why does Mothra die in every fucking film I watch? From my knowledge, Mothra fucking dies all the fucking time. Never can live that long. I guess moths don't live that long, but still. But Mothra like gives up its like last bit of like actual life to eventually reincarnate, obviously, but also just to fight for humanity and defeat Godzilla, and ends up technically failing. It dies, but it does get reincarnated into two of these little larva things, and that's. The larva things defeat Godzilla, which is weird, but I kind of love it. I think it's dope, and they do it in such a campy way. They defeat him in such a campy way, and I don't hate that. I think it perfectly suits this movie. It's very camp. It's very dramatic. It's super just like all over the place and shouldn't work, but it does perfectly. It's insane. Mothra's great. I mean, I love Mothra from the MonsterVerse, but I like even here, where it's toned down because they don't have the technology available like we have now. Mothra's still a great character in a sense. Like Godzilla and Mothra are characters that they have their own personalities, they have their own development, they have their own arcs, and Mothra's just a cool character. You know, I like Godzilla being a villain in these movies. I didn't really expect it all too much. I thought like Godzilla eventually would, like in the first few movies, turn good, but apparently he's still bad, and I don't hate that. And I think rooting for Mothra, even though I am a Godzilla fan, is such a hard thing to do. People are already on the side of Godzilla. People like Godzilla from previously, and you have to get them on Mothra's side, and they do it immediately, and they do it well done. It's a very well done story of Mothra. This is Mothra's movie, essentially, with Godzilla just as the antagonist. I had a lot of fucking fun watching this movie. It is, I would probably put it above the original as a fun factor. Like, again, like I said earlier, it's probably not as good as the original 1954, but it is so much fun to watch and funny as hell. I mean, there's a comedic character in here who is used for laughs, and he's awesome. He's always eating eggs. But I think it's really odd when we're dealing with a giant egg for a good portion of the movie, like 70% of the movie. We're dealing with a giant egg conundrum that Godzilla's also trying to eat. There's this really funny moment again in the movie where like Mothra's swooping in and Godzilla has the egg and he's just like trying to bend away. Sorry, it's just a really funny moment that made me cackle. But like there's actual like comedy here that made me laugh. It's this movie is just this weird like mixture of things that shouldn't work, but it does. And I just enjoy myself throughout the whole movie. I mean, there's, again, like I said, there's like 5 to 10 minutes I would cut. 5 to 10 minutes I'd shorten down. 5 to 10 minutes, or I'd even expand on it. I'd probably talk about some of the human characters more than there's a school that's all of a sudden in trouble on Evil Island. So Godzilla's going after them for some reason. But like, I don't know, expand on some of the characters. Give us another beat, I guess, here. With our actual characters to interact with Mothra, interact with Godzilla, something there, rather than having this long, drawn-out fight with Mothra and Godzilla, which I love. I think that fight's awesome. The Mothra fight and the larva fight are both fun set pieces, but they do drag on a little bit long. Like eventually, I do get sick about that constant back and forth. So I just want a little bit more intrigue when it comes to our human characters that you built so well in this movie. Like I like all three of the main characters. The side characters are fun and interesting. Even like the human antagonists, the greedy developers for like the amusement park and their aspect of things is so interesting to watch them interact with our protagonists, because like they have meaningful conversations, and like they have their own like motivations and goals, and like yes, they're kind of like basic villains, but they're not treated as basic. Like they're interesting. There's basic villains who don't really do much with like what they're given, and they kind of just throw it in like, oh yes, I'm a real estate developer that's trying to take over this egg and make it an attraction rather than, you know, a scientific endeavor, or, you know, nature doing its thing. But I don't know. I find them interesting. I find that their drama, their motivations, their whole aspect of their things is so fun and interesting. It gives us a little bit of another dimension of things, that not only can our protagonist be good, but our antagonist from the human perspective can be great. And I don't know, this movie is fun. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I had a lot of fun with it. I can't say that more. I'm very excited to go into the next movies, especially if Honda's helming this, because he perfectly balanced everything here. So if you can continue to do that throughout, I think the next one's Ghidorah. Yeah, next one's Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. So he directs that. I want to see how that works out. Don't know how they're gonna do Ghidorah, especially because Godzilla's been the antagonist for such a long time. That how they can pivot him to being maybe a protagonist, because I doubt Ghidorah is a protagonist, because he's a fucking dickhead in any interpretation I watched. But yeah, I'm very interested to watch that now. I'm much more hyped than I was then, because this movie just nailed it. It nailed the human characters, it nailed the kaiju fights, it nailed everything. It gave me something to watch, and I had fun. Like, that's all I can ask for movies, for me to have fun, and it also gave a little depth to it, which is perfect. I like movies with a lot of depth. You know, think about like Oppenheimer, for example. I like movies like a lot of fun, like Barbie, which also is pretty deep in the same. It's still pretty deep, but mixing those two together perfectly is what I like. And apparently that baby is Mothra versus Godzilla. Dude, ton of fun. If you're interested in kaiju movies and interested in going to watch them, obviously watch the original Godzilla, but Mothra versus Godzilla is fun. But yeah, next week we'll likely be talking about Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, just because, as you may have remembered, I packed up all my Blu-rays, so I don't have access to some movies that I really want to cover. Thankfully, streaming has been covered with some things with these long series that I want to still do. So likely, look out for Ghidorah. Maybe I'll just get back to what I'm doing. We'll see next week. But until then, remember to like, remember to subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Bye bye.